Next topic, we're talking about Kevin Stefanski got ranked 4th place in head coaches for the AFC North.
Yeah.
You guys think that's fair?
Yeah, there's no argument for him being
How
higher
can it
than
be
that.
anything other? Yeah.
I mean, you may like him personally, but there's literally no argument you could make that takes Kevin
So
Stefanski.
I know you think I'm a homer, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I like him, but you can't make an argument to do so. I mean, Zac Taylor, who a lot of people kind of underrated as a head coach, has took his team to the Super Bowl, 2 AFC Championship appearances.
Right.
We all know what John Harbaugh is. We all know his track record as a head coach.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in his career,
Yeah.
and he has a Super Bowl. So, I mean, a Coach of the Year award is not enough to get you higher in a division when you consider everything else every head coach in this division has done.
And the Coach of the Year doesn't go to the best coach. It goes to the coach of the most surprising good team.
Usually.
Pretty much.
I mean, brand new coach with the Browns in a COVID year.
And and he did a good job. And I know Jason thinks he's a good coach, and I think he's a good coach too. And we're probably the minority opinion here in Cleveland, or at least it's 50-50. However, there is, how do I make an argument for him being better than the other guys?
No, you're not being reasonable. And
No.
and that's fine. Like,
Yeah.
look who's in your division.
Right.
There's no shame in being 4th when you're up against two guys that are probably going to the Hall of Fame.
Right.
And another who's already been to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, right.
So,
I mean, if you want to argue that if Kevin Stefanski and Zac Taylor had the same roster that you think Stefanski would do better, okay, you can make that argument. I don't know how you'd prove that, though.
Right. You can't.
You can't prove that. So, I mean, the rankings are what they are, I guess, just to spice the conversation some.
Yeah.
I would say that Kevin Stefanski has a lot of potential that when we do this next year, he might be ranked number 2.
He might be 3rd.
He might be 3rd or 2.
Well, you better go to the Super Bowl or at least the AFC Championship game where he's not moving up.
So-
No, yeah.
Because I think a lot goes.
Yeah, they could go to the Super Bowl and he's still not moving beyond 3rd.
I mean, that could because of the division.
true.
That's very possible.
Yeah.
But I mean, 4th is where he is. 4th is 4th. But I think he's a really good head coach, and I think he gets a lot of unnecessary slack. I'm a guy like Jason, man. I'm a huge supporter of Kevin Stefanski, but I'm authentic. When he pisses me off, I let it be known he pisses me off. There's been times that he's done things that's overly frustrated me that just didn't make sense. But I like how he's even keeled. I like the fact that he doesn't really overreact to the negative or to the positive. And I think attitude is a true reflection of leadership.
Yeah.
And if you put out that type of energy, I think your players will follow it. I think he's a coach that does a great job of scheming up a game plan to get guys open. To your point, he's always had guys running open for the last 3 years. He's just never had a quarterback that can consistently get them the ball. I think that the players respect him and play hard for him, and I think he has the respect of the owners and the general manager.
We weren't hearing that from G and Jay and Brad last year. They didn't agree with anyone. Agreed with anything you just said there. And in fact, they said there's no leadership. I think it's funny. In the first year when the Browns went to the playoffs with Stefanski, we all loved the fact that he was calm, cool, he didn't get emotional. But last year when they sucked. A lot of people were angry that he wasn't.
They wanted to see him like losing his shit on the sideline.
Right. And that's not his style. And you know,
He does yell at the refs. They don't catch it, but he does. He does get on the refs.
Yeah, everybody does that, but
But I'm
not
saying,
as much as like.
Is he tearing the locker room apart?
No.
Is he ripping the sideline apart? No. But he's fighting for his guys. He's
And he
getting on the
doesn't
refs.
need to undress. Like some people have asked, he's got to rip his players publicly. He doesn't need to do that, but he should be ripping his players in the locker room, on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
I do
Certainly.
agree with Jason, though. He's not no beta male. I mean, Stefanski is going to talk his stuff, and he will let you know how he feel. But, a lot of people might feel like, okay, I'm giving him too much praise for a coach who's not done much. But I can, see below the surface with a few things. And if you're a guy that you got the command and respect of your team and your organization, that says a lot about your character. And
I want you to say this to G when he's back.
I've had this conversation with G plenty of times.
He has no command of the locker
now,
room
granted,
whatsoever.
I was a guy who last year I was pissed off that he didn't fire Joe Woods or Mike Prefer in the middle of the season. I was one of those guys screaming like, man, try to save the season.
Yeah.
But it took me a long time to realize what Jason said from day one. They was punting.
They
So
punted
it was
that
no need
season.
for him to go out there and do that. But then I also think that it showed good leadership, not firing those guys just because they were in the midst of a storm. I used to be a supervisor of a 7-man department for the city of Cleveland. And to me, good leaders, they delegate to the people that they hire. You have to trust them to do their job, whether they do their job right or not. And then as a leader, you come back at the end of that,
Yeah.
you assess the situation, and then you make the proper changes. And I thought he
Yeah.
did a good job of doing that this
I
offseason.
disagree. I think they still should have fired. It doesn't matter now. I think it was a bad job of leadership to not fire. I think if the ship is sinking, you've got to say it shows that you care or you're trying to change something to fire him. But to me, that's neither here nor there at this point. We've moved on. But Anthony, we're going to move on from this topic because there's no argument taking Kevin Stefanski.
No, that's 100% fair.
Is anybody trying to argue in the chat?
Well, so I did actually. We have a PCC poll that I can
go
read
ahead.
before we move on, and you're going to
Is
love
the
it.
poll question today, am I racist? Because apparently people were calling me racist after G and I had that debate the other day.
Yeah, well, I didn't make that the poll question today, but whenever we do a poll question, it's brought to you by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio, and all locations of PCC in Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up. Plus, you can get a full benefit package, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. So the poll today that Earl put up is, do you believe Kevin Stefanski is the fourth best coach in the AFC North? 36% said yes, and 64% of our fans said no. So I don't actually think they're on your side here, guys, where they're like, oh, yeah, it's cut dry, we're done.
I'd love to hear the arguments. Like, it's just it's my gut feeling.
So some comments here. Taylor hasn't made the Bengals better, just benefited from patient front office and great quarterback and wide receiver. People are saying Stefanski can say the same. So there's a 25 or so comments on here.
I don't think Zac Taylor's a great coach. I think he's all right. In reality, I think most head coaches are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
I think there's 3 or 4 head coaches that are huge and great. I think there's 3 or 4 every year that are complete
Freddies.
trash, Freddies, and most of them are in the middle. It depends on the talent you have.
I think that's a true statement, but
Yeah.
I also think it's true 2 of those guys who's always in the top 4 just happen to be in the AFC North. It seems like John Harbaugh has been able to take whatever he's been given and make it competitive and at least scare other opponents to, hey, the Ravens can make the playoffs. It seems like whatever type of team that you give Mike Tomlin, he's able to go out there and at least make his team competitive. So
I think
they're difference makers.
I will say that I would put Harbaugh ahead of Tomlin personally. I think one of Tomlin's biggest flaws has been he's hired shitty assistants.
On the offensive side, they've had a lot of problems.
Have they? Name a coach. There's no coaches. Does Mike Tomlin have a coaching tree?
No, but I my pushback will be the offensive coordinator, his mind is Greg Roman, that used to be there.
Yeah.
It's not like he did anything to push the Ravens offense or Lamar Jackson forward either. So you can argue that both coaches hasn't. Think about it.
What do you mean?
So this is when he came over from San Francisco because he worked with Colin Kaepernick. He came over. He became the Ravens offensive coordinator.
Did Lamar win an MVP? With
Lamar won an MVP, but he didn't do much, in my opinion, to really progress Lamar forward as a quote-unquote quarterback. Because this is what people say when you talk about Lamar Jackson. Yeah. He's a running quarterback, and he can't throw. Like, to me, good offensive coordinators can help you add on layers to your game.
I think, in my opinion, the 2 biggest problems with Lamar Jackson can't be coached. 1, injury. 2, his ability, his decision making. I don't know that can be improved.
I think he has a big arm. I think he's accurate, and I think that he hasn't had an offensive coordinator that actually put him in positions to show that, hey,
well, we're going to see that this year,
and you will see it.
We'll see if that works for him.
Because I would put Tomlin above. They both have a Super Bowl, right? Well, Harbaugh has 2 Super Bowl rings, right? So you can
Tomlin
argue.
hasn't won a playoff game in forever.
You can argue that's the edge, but man, there's something about how competitive the NFL is and the AFC is in particular. Yeah. He's never had a losing season as a coach, and it's not like he's always had a competent roster.
That's fair.
This would be a good question for Aditi in 20 minutes.
Oh, it is true. It is a good question.
We do have 20 minutes until Aditi. Some people in here are saying Zac Taylor deserves to be in the last.
Yeah, that's silly. That doesn't make any sense.